For years, the Sahel has been at the center of global conversations about security, terrorism, and instability. Yet despite countless strategies, missions, and promises, life for ordinary people in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger has grown harder, not easier. Now the European Union says it is turning the page with a renewed approach to the Sahel. But Africans are asking a simple, powerful question. Is this truly a new strategy or the same approach repackaged? Today, we break this conversation down from the perspective that matters most, the people who live with the consequences every day.
How do they, concretely say that they are supporting these nations to fight insecurity?
Right.
Clearly, there are linkages between organized crime that is coming from the coast, from ports, from the sea, and the jihadi movements in Central Sahel. And it is this linkage that is fundamental for all of us to be acting upon. This is a fundamental part of control over the coast of the Gulf of Guinea as a whole. All up the coast, there are important ports from here, from Tema to, of course, Abidjan, and further up we have Monrovia, we have Freetown. These ports can all link, and Lomé, Cotonou as well. These ports can all link to jihadi movements unless they are properly secured, unless they are properly controlled. This security begins at sea, but it also extends, of course, to land and to proper control over the port activities.
You've mentioned the Sahel Gulf of Guinea corridor, and it seems the EU is now prioritizing countries like Ghana, Benin, Togo, and Ivory Coast over military-led states like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. But how can we protect people in Gulf of Guinea nations from jihadist threats without partnering with those Sahel regimes, especially since most attacks originate there?
I think that a year, 2 years ago, a lot of analysts were saying, now we're going to see a push from the jihadi movements down to the coast. Actually, in the last year or two, we have not seen that. We have not seen any kind of territorial expansion of jihadi attacks down into the coast. There have been here or there some sporadic attacks, but nothing like what is happening in Mali, Burkina Faso.
But the sporadic jihadist attacks have a great toll on civilians in coastal nations like Ghana. And I'm sure Ghanaians watching would wish to know, what is the EU actually doing to help, especially since it wants to partner with their country on security?
What we need to be doing as European Union is working very closely with the state authorities. We have to do this always in close collaboration with the state authorities. We have no mandate to go into countries of West Africa and say what should be done and shouldn't be done. What we do have a mandate to do, and this mandate comes from our own citizens, is to work very closely with the legitimate authorities of Ghana or of other countries in order to support them in their fight against this link between organized crime and the jihadi movements.
This first question goes straight to the heart of the issue. For years, Sahelian communities have been told that help is coming, that partnerships will deliver peace and development. So when the EU says it is now ready to listen, people are not rejecting dialogue. They are asking why listening did not happen before everything reached this point.
What is different about this new strategy, and how are they going to ensure that, the military and security partnership in some way, is geared towards helping the Sahelians, citizens?
When we engage in military and security cooperation with other countries, they need to have this assurance that there is proper training that accompanies the delivery of equipment. So we work with the Ghanaian authorities, we work with authorities of other countries, and I think that on our side, working with Ghana has been very satisfactory because we're thinking eye to eye. We are thinking along the same lines about the importance of accountability, the importance of respect for human rights in the use of, with the use of military equipment.
Many people initially welcomed military takeovers with hope that insecurity would end, hope that dignity would return, hope that leaders would finally act. But when daily life does not improve, when violence continues and poverty deepens, that hope turns into frustration. And that frustration is directed not only at local leaders, but also at international partners who promised change.
And indeed, let me just interrupt. Ghana is positioning itself as a bridge between ECOWAS and Sahelian military regimes. So how is Accra helping EU behind the scenes to renew relations with junta-led countries? And what outcomes would make you say, yes, this kind of quiet diplomacy is delivering for ordinary citizens of Mali?
Well, by definition, quiet diplomacy should be a little bit quiet. So I will. But having said that, what I can say is the following: that we find that in those countries there is a desire to engage with us, and the work that we're doing at the moment with them is to try to see because we don't share the same perspectives on many things, and we have to have the sufficient maturity. We and they have to have the sufficient maturity to say, there are some things we just have to agree to disagree. We're not going to come to an agreement. However, that doesn't mean that we have to be paralyzed and not talk about anything else. We can engage in issue areas that are of common concern for both of us. We can work out what is the intersection between our interests and their interests, and develop mechanisms of dialogue and cooperation that correspond to that intersection, even if there are other things that we just don't agree upon.
This is one of the most difficult questions in the entire conversation. Europe speaks strongly about human rights and accountability. At the same time, Europe remains one of the world's largest arms exporters. If weapons continue to circulate illegally across the region, no amount of training or diplomatic language will bring lasting security. Any serious strategy for the Sahel must confront this reality honestly.
And our correspondent for Fana, Makan, in Bamako asked Malians what they think of EU's renewed approach.
UA can help us, but if only it can try to involve local communities, if those countries try to be together, it's something really good. It's something to be helped, okay? Because you cannot talk about development without peace.
If you want to help somebody, you need to know first the problem the person is living, and then you need to discover the realities of those areas, what they are suffering from, and then you cannot just come and impose things on them and they would accept. No.
AU has to see which one is better of all us. Okay? To balance all us in the world up. As we talk about the Sahel countries, precisely in Mali. So to give us the priority first.
These voices are important. They are not rejecting cooperation. They are not calling for isolation. They are asking for respect, inclusion, and solutions shaped by local realities, not policies designed far away and imposed from above.
Exactly. That's why I asked Cravinho how the EU plans to keep supporting local people, even when political ties with their governments, are strained.
At the end of the day, it's because we are interested in what happens with ordinary people in Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger that we are engaged. We are concerned. We are talking about 75 million people in those three countries, and we cannot be indifferent to what happens to them, and we know that they face tremendous challenges. And therefore, what we are doing is shaping our cooperation in a manner that corresponds to their human security, because that is the dimension in which we can work. We're not working directly with the armed forces of those countries, but we can work with the civilian security forces. We can work also with human security in a wider sense, access to food, access to basic education, access to schooling. And on the other hand, also their socioeconomic resilience, their capacity for building up small businesses, generating employment, offering a future for their young people. And we know that the young people are the great majority of the population. So there are a number of areas in which we can work together, which are above all about creating better conditions of life and better opportunities, better future for the people of the countries, even if we don't agree on some aspects with the governments that they have.
So does this mean that you sometimes sit down with the juntas because the perception out there is that the EU is not welcomed in Mali, Niger, or even in Burkina Faso?
I have been to Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger and engaged in conversation with the country, with the people who are governing the country. And this is the way forward. I think that it is not possible for us to say we can make a difference, we can be supportive of the populations of those countries if we do not engage with those who are running the countries. That means, as I said, that we don't have to agree on everything. We just have to work out where we can correspond to our interests in a manner that is acceptable for all, and put the emphasis on that, while talking about the areas in which we do disagree.
And when you sit down with the military-led authorities, what are your non-negotiables so that European engagements doesn't become a photo opportunity with juntas but a shield for citizens' rights?
Well, what I would say the following. I don't arrive in Bamako or Ouagadougou or Niamey with demands saying you have to do this or you have to do that. What I do arrive with is the availability to listen, and also the availability to say, my friends, you know, there are some impediments here for us in terms of working together. So let's see how we can go through those impediments. I want to arrive saying, let us try to work out what it is possible for us to do without, of course, compromising our values that are very important for us and for our population.
This question reflects a new reality in the Sahel. Engagement can no longer be built on pressure or old assumptions. Sahelian states are making choices based on sovereignty, dignity, and results. For the EU, this moment is not about convincing. It is about adapting to a region that now chooses its partners on its own terms.
How different will it be this time round?
New approach has just been approved 2 weeks ago. So I think going forward over the next months, and I expect to be returning to Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger in January or February. Going forward, I think we will be able to give you some examples of that. But it's only been 2 weeks, so we're still in very early days.
Well, I hope you will consider getting real-time feedback from people in conflict-affected areas, beyond the meetings in the capital cities. But which new citizen-centered EU programs are you rolling out in your new approach?
We have, for example, at the moment, a package of around 150 million, which is there in order to develop projects that make sense. So these projects haven't been developed. This is money that is available, that we can say, we can use it if you want to make us interesting proposals, and if those proposals are ones that are compatible with the way that we believe that our money should be used. And so it is an opening that we are offering. And I think that there is interest, and why shouldn't there be interest on the side of the people who are running the countries in Mali, Burkina Faso.
Here under the baobab, when the conversation gets heated, there's a way that we lighten the mood, cool off things, and get to know our guests a little bit on a personal level. So who is Mr. Cravino?
What was the most surprising thing you learned in your first months as EU envoy to the Sahel?
I think the most surprising thing was that it was sometimes easier to engage with the countries of the Sahel than to engage with our friends back in Europe. But we got over that.
One book, film, or song that shaped how you think about Africa or peace building?
I think it has to be The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela.
A moment in the Sahel or West Africa that changed your mind about something important?
In Burkina Faso, understanding the importance for a group of ladies, women's cooperatives who are engaged in textile making, and understanding that sometimes some of the abstract theories that we seek to grapple with in our conversations in the capital really needed to be translated into very, very specific, concrete deliverables.
Now, if you were not a diplomat or a politician, what job would you have been doing?
I would like to return to academia, to be teaching. That gives me enormous enjoyment.
One habit you picked up from West Africans that you wish Europeans had?
Eating more jollof has to be part of it.
And how about a misconception about the Sahel you wish European citizens would drop?
It is very important for Europeans to understand that this is not about good guys and bad guys. This is about a very complex set of dynamics with wonderful people all around who are facing up to extremely difficult challenges.
Coffee with a village chief, a young activist, or a border police officer? And why?
At the end of the day, it has to be the young activist because, firstly, Africa is so young. This region is 70% of people under 25. They're the ones that we really need. They're the future. They're the ones that we really need to be engaging with and to understand. And their mentality is different from that of the older folks. And I'm one of the older folks. So that's the one that I need to be engaging with.
Africans across the region are facing real challenges in their daily lives, from insecurity and rising costs to limited opportunities for young people. What many communities are asking for is simple: understanding, respect, and solutions that reflect their lived realities. Listening to these experiences is essential for any partnership to truly work.
Now, the question Sahelian citizens ask you most often when the cameras are off.
Like some of the questions that you've been asking, what is the concrete changes that this is going to be making? And I think that this is something that we have to really be able to face up to.
One promise you make to yourself before each trip to the region.
I'm going to be in touch back home.
Indeed. So really what stood out for me during this interesting chat with Mr. Kravino, I mean, getting to know him personally, was the jollof rice aspect.
Okay. People should eat jollof.
Yes, it's very delicious. So while the EU rethinks its approach, countries like Russia, China, Turkey, and the Gulf states are expanding their influence in the Sahel nations. Critics are saying that EU talks a lot about values, while others that we just mentioned are moving faster with financial incentives and security guarantees.
Mm-hmm. The European Union says it is rethinking its approach to the Sahel after years of strained relations and mixed results. This shift reflects an understanding that past strategies did not always connect with realities on the ground. The real question now is whether this new approach will translate into practical changes that people can feel in their daily lives.
How will the EU convince young people in the Sahel, I'm talking about Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, to choose their partnerships from a villager's perspective or entrepreneur's perspective? What will make the EU's offer visibly different in the next few years?
Well, I certainly hope it is very different from the offer of Russia. And I think the one thing that everybody has understood is that Russia does not have solutions to offer. The situation in military situation is now much worse than when they first became engaged. Other countries, we don't require any kind of exclusivity. We believe that the range of instruments that we have at our disposal is incomparable to that of any other country or group of countries. But on the other hand, there is nothing against any of those countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, engaging with us at the same time as they engage with other countries. So we think that we don't underestimate our relevance. We don't underestimate our capacity, but we are not in the business of competing or crowding out.
Not in the business of competing or crowding out.
Right. So
the future of the Sahel will not be decided in conference rooms or press briefings. It will be decided by whether people feel safer, whether they can feed their families, whether young people see a future at home instead of on dangerous journeys. The EU says it is ready to listen. The real test will be whether people in the Sahel feel the difference. This is Voice of Africa. Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. The conversation continues.